Hello and welcome to In Stitches. Something a little bit different today. This is not your standard run-of-the-mill sewing machine, as you might be able to tell. This is actually a customer's machine, and she bought it basically not to use, but because it looks cool. And she's got a collection of sewing machines. She wanted to add this to it. It's not really a practical type of machine because it's a very specialized industrial machine. Just to let you know in advance, we won't be seeing the machine sew because I don't have the correct table to mount it on, and I don't have the correct motor for this type of machine. But basically what we'll do today is we'll take some of the panels off, we'll go through how the machine works, what it actually does. As far as I can tell, just judging by the manual, which we'll have a look at in a second, is I think this dates from around about the 1940s. And so it would have been in a factory sewing buttons onto, I would say, probably jackets or something to that effect, because it's a special type of button we'll see in the manual in a second. But it's set up for a specific type of button. And yeah, it's just an interesting machine, and I thought that it'd be quite cool to show you. So I think probably the best thing to do straight off is to show you the manual, and it gives you a better idea of how the machine works, what it actually does. Okay, here we have the manual. Our particular model is the 175-61. So we'll just work our way through the manual, and that'll give you a good idea as to what the machine's doing. The scan is not that great, so some of the pictures here are not that great, but yeah. So it shows you the original table, the original Singer stand here, and that looks like that's a pulley system here. So you've got probably a motor down under here. I would say D would be drive, and you've got a couple of pulleys here guiding the belt up to the main pulley on the machine itself over here, and a nice little belt guard. And you've got the two pedals, basically one will be foot lift and one will be go. And these machines, they run in a cycle. I'll explain that a bit later once we look at what the machine actually does. But here's the motor situation here. So you've got a motor it's constantly spinning. We'll see that in a second on the actual machine itself. That motor there is spinning constantly. This belt and these pulleys are constantly driving the machine. Well, they're not driving the machine as such. They're driving a pulley on the machine, and it gets engaged. The machine gets engaged to do one cycle, and then the pulley disengages. I'll show you that on the machine itself. It goes through the oiling of the machine here. Yeah, I'll go through and oil the machine fully. It's not going to be used, but if I oil it, at least it won't sort of seize up. It was actually a little bit seized up when I first tried to turn the machine over. So it's showing you that underneath, and some of the oil points. There'll be grease points in there as well. And so we've got threading there, top thread. It's a single thread chain stitch. It's all good, and we can see down here it's talking about the button clamp. So it's quite a versatile machine as far as sewing buttons goes. And so here we can see the clamp arrangement here. So you can see on the right here, you can see where the button is clamped into the holder. So that's your standard type button, 4-hole. You can put 2-hole buttons into it. And if we scooch down a bit further, so there we've got through and through stitching flat buttons away from the material, so it gives you a little bit of space between the button and the garment. Close to the material, you've got over here, what's that one? Flat buttons away from the material. And then we've got pretty close to what we've got here is the self shank buttons. So a little bit like what you'd see on a jacket or a coat. We'll see those in a second. They're the kind of rounded type head. This is pretty much the closest. It's not exactly what we've got, but it's closest that I can see on this in the manual here. So through and through stitching metal shank buttons, blind stitching metal shank buttons, that's pretty close to what we've got. Through and through stitching leather shank buttons. So you can see the button there, it's this type of button here that you'll see on jackets and whatnot. And so they've got a shank on them, and that shank is what gets stitched to the garment. So you might have seen these types of buttons here as well. That's a through and through stitching metal shank buttons with stay buttons, these here. And so these are some of the different types of buttons here. You can see on the right here. Flat buttons, self shank buttons, blind stitched, button clamp. So you've got all these different types. Over on the left here, got these types, look like little mushrooms really, don't they? And so, you know, this machine's capable of sewing a wide variety of different buttons just by changing the clamp arrangement on the machine here on the head. And so now it's getting into, you know, adjustments for mechanics. Let's see, what have we got? Adjusting the stop motion, I'll explain that in a second. It's easier to see on the machine itself. Yep, set the needle bar at the correct height to time the needle bar vibration. Looper shaft crank and the looper drive shaft crank. Adjust the looper with relation to the needle to time the looper. Automatic tension, thread pull off, thread nipper, timing the thread nipper. And that's pretty much it. And then you've got the index. Just get you in a little bit closer here. Here's the button clamp arrangement here. And you can see the clamp itself. If I lift the presser foot here, you can see the action of the clamp there. So you would feed the button into here and then let your foot come down, and it would clamp into place and put the button into place, ready to sew. Someone's turned up. The supervisor's turned up. Hello, Alice. Look at you, you're all soggy. Where have you been? You've been outside in the rain. Oh. She comes in here and just dries herself off on me. Hey? Oh, soggy. Right, you can sit there on my knee, make my knee all wet. Okay, back to the subject here. Yeah, so you'd feed the button into here, and then this, yeah, and so that it'd be all set to sew there. We'll go through the cycle that the machine does first of all, because it's not like a normal sewing machine where you are sewing a seam with a certain, you know, at a certain length, or, you know, all different lengths. And I was going to put Alice in this shot, but I think she'll be too distracting and you won't hear anything that I'm saying. It'll just be like blah, 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 blah. Let's zoom down a bit so we don't have that distraction. So a button sewing machine needs to sew just a certain number of stitches per button. Let's say, for instance, I think this one I've counted it, it's about 16 stitches. and it does it in a cycle. So when you put your foot down, it goes and it just does it at full speed, the 16 stitches, and then finishes the cycle. You know, that's quite different to a standard machine where you want speed control, you've got different lengths of seam that you're sewing. So on a normal machine, you know, obviously you put your foot down as required, whereas this is just all or nothing. So what's happening here is we saw that motor and pulley system, and that's driving this pulley constantly the whole time. This is just spinning the whole time. And of course it's got that belt guard over it we saw in the manual, would be just sitting nicely over here. So that's spinning away there, and when the operator puts their foot down to engage the machine, this here gets pulled up like that, and as that pulls up, this piece here is pushing the pulley in this way on the shaft here. And you've got to remember, this is spinning, right? It's constantly spinning. So that comes up and latches in like that. That's a bit loose. So now this is engaged and the pulley's coming around, and you've got this bolt here, through here, that pushes onto this. It's like a lug on the shaft. Just getting a view from the back, it's a bit easier to see. So of course, so this is engaged now, and this is spinning here, and what happens is this bolt, the head of the bolt here, engages with this piece here, which is attached to the shaft, and starts to drive the machine. And so it'll do that. It'll go around 16 times, as far as I've counted. Right. 2, 3, and while we're counting up, we'll have a look at what the machine's doing. If we come around here, 4, still stitching here, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, cat fur, 11, was it? 12, 13, 14, 15, and disengaged. And so this is flipped down, and it's pulled the pulley, because of this piece here, which is angled, it's pulled the pulley back, and now we're disengaged. And momentum will bring this to the stopper there. And that's a spring-loaded stopper there. So you'll see this sort of thing on industrial machines, you know, likes of buttonhole machines run like this, bar tacking machines, button sewers like this one here. And so yeah, it's quite a common sort of setup. Again, that'll just sit there and spin away until the operator has loaded another button and is ready to go. We'll just tip the machine back there, we can have a look underneath. It's quite nicely balanced there. So you've got your drive pulley here, you've got your main shaft coming through here. That will be probably driving the needle bar up and down, I would say. And we've got this cam here, which does the back and forward movement. So if you're doing a 4-hole button, you've got the 2 front holes, and then so you're stitching those two holes, the front 2, and then this cam here is in charge of moving the button so that it can sew the back holes, if that makes sense. And so we can see this in action if we just engage this. You can see this cam here moving. Well, you could if there wasn't a cat in the way. You'll get your whiskers caught. It's not very helpful, Alice. That's where the needle is. I don't know if that's such a good idea either. You go over there and supervise. That's a good idea. Okay, so this is turning. You can see this cam here so this will be doing like either the front or the back two here on this section here before it'll get you closer. So here's your two positions. You've got this position here, and you can see where it transitions to the other position here. So as I turn the machine, so it would be, let's say for instance it'll be sewing the back two holes in the button. That's if we had like a 4-hole button. And as it comes around that, this here will move. So that's what the cam's driving, is this here. You'll see it move. A second. It's just about there, I think. There we go, moving. And if it was sewing the back two, now it'll be sewing the front two. Could be vice versa, but that is the mechanism that moves the button clamp. So what it does is it actually moves, this is a bit hard to see because it doesn't have the clamp attached for the 4-hold buttons, but effectively what that cam does is it moves a section down in here, just down in here, and so with the 4-hole button situation, you'd have a carrier coming down right to the front where the needle is actually doing the stitching, and it would move that clamp back and forward. So to sew the front two, the clamp would be back here, and then to sew the back two, the clamp would move forward. And that's what this cam does, is it moves this. And we'll see how this works here. So what will happen is when we get around to about here, so when this comes up around here, there's a mechanism that disengages the drive. And you'll see that this here will move, and that will cause this to drop. Will cause this here to come towards us, or drop down if the machine head was up the correct way, and that in turn will pull this pulley away. Okay. So it's probably going to disengage soon up here. There we go. So this is moving here and has disengaged this. So this now has disengaged from the drive. So it's no longer driving, and momentum will take this around to the stopper. So that's pretty much how this cycle runs. Gauge that again. And the rest of it here we can see. So you've got a worm gear here driving this cam, and you've also got this gear driving this shaft, which is driving this here, and that is in turn driving this. This linkage here is quite ingenious because what it's doing is it's changing the speed of the rotation of the shaft here. So you can see as I turn, so if I turn there, it's turning fast, and if I turn there, you can see it's turning slow. So it speeds up, slows down. So if you look at this as I'm turning here, So that's a reasonably constant speed, you know, as I pull it. But you can see that this slow, fast, slow, fast, slow. And that's all done by this linkage here. It's quite neat. So this is your main input here, shaft here, drives that gear, that's driving this here, and then this little linkage in between is driving this, and you can see how it's working. So when it's at that point it's driving fast, and when it comes around here it slows right down, because those two shafts are slightly offset. But yeah, that is an amazing mechanical device. I mean, yeah, you know, that's pretty cool. They're just offset shafts basically. That's how that's working, with a little linkage in between. But yeah, that is really cool. So that is driving the hook. This is the hook here, and you can see it speeding up and slowing down as I turn. This here is acting as a spreader, so it spreads the threads so that the needle can come down in between the threads on its descent. Yeah, pretty neat, pretty neat. So that's the sort of basic overview of the bottom end of the machine. If we just tip it back up, we can have a look at some of the other bits and pieces here. This faceplate normally would have 2 screws in here. They are missing. That would come off like that and just gives you access in there for oiling. So that's our needle bar there. Needle bar drive. And let's have a look in behind here. Certainly made for ease of maintenance, that's for sure. Nice and easy to remove this panel here. So we can get a closer look at the workings here. So there's the needle bar drive there. So that cam there is driving this crank up here, which is driving this shaft along here. And you can see it's driving the needle bar. You can see it there, that's what that's doing. It's driving this here for our needle bar motion. That there. And we've also got another cam here. And this is doing the zigzag of the needle. So if you've got like a 2-hole button, this is just doing the zigzag between the holes, if you know what I mean. And it's driven by this here. And so you can see this is moving, this here, moving here. That there. It's pivoting at this point here. That's adjustable. That pivot point is adjustable by this here. You can loosen this nut here and slide this back or forward to give you a wide or narrow zigzag throw. And so what that's doing is it's moving the needle bar. So you'll see this needle bar. It's going to move the needle bar this way and that way as I turn. See it move there? Back again. And so that's your zigzag motion for stitching your button. And so the combination of this cam here doing your zigzag and the cam we saw at the bottom positioning the button to the front or the back to do the 4-hole buttons gives you that combination. It's all done mechanically. Pretty cool. There's also a thread nipper mechanism, so that as this cam rotates, this ball here comes around and will engage with this here at the end of the cycle, like that. And so what it's doing is it's pushing this up. You can see that moving up there. And then that's the end of the cycle. So more than likely what that's doing is on the last stitch, it's nipping the thread so that the thread is snapped. It doesn't come out of the needle eye, but it's just snapped so that the operator can remove the garment without having to trim it. It doesn't have to trim the thread. So that's the thread nipper. The machine's actually got a little bit of damage. There's supposed to be another tension assembly here. I've got the tension assembly, but it's snapped off on the thread here. So yeah, I don't think we'll go, trying to repair that, considering the machine's not going to be used as such. I think that's pretty much, in a nutshell, that's pretty much all I can show you there. Without having an actual working machine with all the different attachments and whatnot, which would be quite cool to actually show, the machine working properly as it's designed. But as I say, I'm not set up for it, don't have the table or the correct motor. We could probably rig something up temporarily, but yeah, maybe at some stage, if I get the chance to. I might attach it to a tabletop, and even if we just hooked up like a servo motor or something like that to it, and just had the servo motor constantly running at a sort of slowish speed, you could show it off. But yeah, so I'll go ahead and give the machine an oil. The other thing is, it was missing, there's a little cover that goes over here. I think it hinges on these two parts here, and there's a little spring, but that's come off. I think it was a little bit damaged in transit, so yeah, but that's neither here nor there at this stage for this machine. But yeah, I'll go ahead and give the machine a good oil and grease, and yeah, I thought that was quite interesting when I grabbed it out of the box, and thought, yeah, I think people will probably quite like to see that one. So yeah, that's about it for this one. That is the Singer 175-61 button sewing machine from around, I'd say, the 1940s. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. Alice is now ensconced on my knee, and so yeah, I'll probably just go and edit a video with a cat on my knee. A very special shout out to two new patrons, Uri Damvi and Vinny Vidi Visi. Sorry if I've mispronounced your names. Thank you very much for joining up. Thank you for your support. Thank you to all of my patrons. And that's it for this one. We'll catch you in the next one. Thank you from Alice and I. We'll see you next time. This is for the outro.